Hey guys, welcome to our third video lesson. In this lesson, we're actually going to be building a GUI to run our database. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new project. So File, New Project, Java Application, and we're going to call this project Database GUI. And we're going to uncheck this because we don't need a main class. Finish that. And then that will be created here. So now we're going to right click on this. We're going to do new JFrame form. And we're going to create this, and we're going to call the class cars, and we're going to call the package garage. Finish that. And this is what's going to actually allow us to build our GUI. So then that appears here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring over a panel. So bring that over, expand that, and then we're going to put 4 labels onto this panel. I misspoke. We actually need 5 labels, and for each of these labels we're going to name them what our columns are. So edit text. So this one's going to be ID. This one is going to be the make of our car. This one will be the model of our car. This one will be the year. And this one will be our price. So now what we're going to do is we are going to drag these text field boxes over to each of our labels, like so. So now that we have all these text fields, we're going to edit the text and take out the default text that was put into them. And then we're going to do that for all these. Edit text. Edit text. And edit text. Then we're going to re-expand these, which might be a little tricky. Go. I apologize if I'm skipping around too much doing this. My computer glitches a good bit when placing these labels in these text boxes, so I just went ahead and just did them all, cut the video, stuff like that. So now once we've got all of our text boxes and all of them are empty, we're going to change the variable names. So this one is going to be text ID. This one's going to be text make. This one will be text model. This one will be text year. Text year. And this one will be text price. So now we're actually going to start building the code for our GUI. So to do that, we're going to come to source, which opens up our code window, and we're going to do our imports. Now our imports are going to be the same as the imports that we did whenever we just made our basic Java file. So we're going to copy these imports, come to our new code, and we're just going to paste those here. Rid of that. And the only new import that we're going to have is import javax dot swing dot j option pane. That's going to be our only new import. So then after we do that, we're going to make our declarations for our instance variables of the class. So those are going to be connection, con, statement, stmt, and result set, rs. Alright, so after we got those, we're going to make a doConnect method down here that's going to be used to connect to our database. So we're going to do public void do connect. Just like that. And then up in our constructor, we're going to call that method. Do connect. So now to make our actual do connect method, the first thing we're going to do is make a try catch block. So try catch. And in this, we're going to have SQL exception error. And in this, we're going to have J option pane dot show message dialog. Then we're going to do the class name, so cars dot this error dot get message, just like that. Alright, so now we're going to actually have to connect to our database, similar to how we did in our last video. So we can really just copy and paste this right here, and then take out the declarations for statement and result set and connection, as we declare them already as our variables for the class. So we'll come here, and in our try block, we'll simply paste those, just like this. And then we've already declared these variables, so we'll take out these declarations, just like that. So now whenever we actually want to run our GUI, we're going to want it to first display the first values from our database. So we're going to come down here, enter, and we're going to pull the rs.next method that we discussed in the last video. That will pull the first values from our database. So for the rest of this, we can really copy and paste this line of code from the last Java file that we made. So come here, and I'll line this up, make it look a little better. There we go. Just like that. Now what we are going to have to do is we're going to have to convert our integer values and our double into strings. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to do string ID is equal to integer dot toString, and then in this we're going to put the ID call, just like that. And then we're going to have to do the same thing for our car year and car price. So string year, we'll call this year made, equals integer dot toString, and then car year, just like that. And then with our double, so we'll do string price equals double dot toString, and we'll put in this car price, just like that. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to display these values in the text fields that we just made. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to do text ID, which was the variable name of that text ID box, dot set text ID, which is the string from up here. So then we're going to do text make dot set text, and we'll do car underscore make, and then we'll have text model dot set text car underscore model. That should be text, and then text year. We'll do set text year made, and then here we'll do text price dot set text price, just like that. So now whenever we actually run our program, we should see the first record displayed. Okay, so it's running this. Wait for that to come up. Oh, and we got this error message for no suitable driver found. Alright, so basically what it means is that we don't have a driver. So similar to how we did with our DB Connect class or file, we're going to have to add that DB client jar. So if we come over to our database GUI and we go to libraries, we're going to add jar, just like that, and we're going to do our derby client.jar again. So we're going to add that. And now whenever we run our code, it should display our GUI with our first record on it. It's running that. And there we go. So now we can see that our first record's displayed. So our first ID, Ford Mustang 1999 for $20,213.13. So now what we're actually going to do is we're going to make buttons on our GUI that will allow us to go next, previous, last, and first to scroll through our database. So let's cancel that database. So now we're going to go back to our design and we're going to add 4 buttons. So buttons are right here. So we'll add 4 of those. Now that we have our 4 buttons, we're going to edit the text on each of these. So the first one will be next. The second one will be previous. Next one will be last. And the fourth one will be first. And we can try to make these line up a little better, like so. There we go. And we're going to have to change the variable names just like we did with our text fields. So we're going to call this one button first, just like that. Oh, excuse me, that was meant to be button next. Button next. Button previous. Button last. And then button first, just like that. So the first button that we'll actually make is our next button. So if we double click our next button, it'll bring us to where its code starts, which is right here. So we're going to delete that. So we're going to have to do a try and our catch. So try, just set this up really quick. Catch. Our catch is going to be SQL exception error, and then in our curly brackets we'll put J option pane dot show message dialog car dot this end of file. End of file. Oh, this should actually be cars, not car. Alright, so what's this right here? Alright, so we're fine. Alright, so Now in our try statement, we're actually going to have an if-else statement. So rs.next also serves as a boolean. So it will return true if there is a next and false if there's not. So if there is, so we're going to have this if statement. So if there is a next, it'll cycle through that. And then we're going to have an else statement in case there is not a next in our database. So in our if statement, we're going to put the same line of code, the same lines of code that we put in our doConnect method. If we come up to that, we're going to really basically just take the same code, copy it, and we're going to come back down to that button, and we'll paste that here. Make this all look a little better. Like this. So a lot of the code from here on out is pretty repetitive, so we can do a lot of copy and pasting, which makes our lives very easy. All right, so now that we have all this, what we're going to do now is set up our else statement. So if there is not a next, we're going to want to return our database back to the previous. So we're going to do rs.previous, which serves as the same thing as the .next. It just goes back instead of forward. And then j option pane dot show message dialog cars dot this end of file, just like that. Now before we can actually test our next button, we're going to have to change our statement that we put in the doConnect method. So we're going to come up and find where we had our statement, and we're going to add two result set commands that will allow us to scroll through our data. So the first one will be result set dot type scroll insensitive, so it'll be this. And then after we do that one, we'll do a result set dot concur updatable, just like that. So now whenever we run our code, it should let us use our next button. So if we pull up our GUI, we now have a working next button, and we get our error message when we reach the end of the file. Now right now our previous, last, and first buttons don't do anything because we haven't put any code into them. So let's go ahead and do our previous button, which is probably going to be one of our easiest ones. So the previous button's going to be the exact same as our next button, except here we're going to change the rs.next to rs.previous, and here the rs.previous to rs.next. So I went ahead and copied that. So if we paste that into here, we can change this to rs.previous, and then we can change this to rs.next, and then our code should run. So we pull up that GUI again. We can now do next and previous. Once we reach the end of the file that way, gives an error message. Once we reach the end of the file that way, we get an error message. So now we're getting into making our first and last buttons. And these buttons are also both super simple. So we'll do our last button first. So we'll come here and delete this line of code. And we're going to have to make our try and catch again. So try, then catch. Our catch will throw the SQL exception error, and then j option pane dot show message dialog cars dot this error dot get message. So just like that. Then in our try, we're going to take this block of code here from our previous. We're going to copy that and put it right in here. And then above this code, we're going to do the result set command rs.last. So that was super simple. So we didn't need to use the if-else method because we're not scrolling to the very end and past our database. So now if we compile this and run our GUI, we should be able to use the last button. Alright, so right now we're on our first. If we hit last, this goes to 4. Previous, last. So that works just like we thought it would. So now let's actually make our first button. So we can really copy and paste all the code from our previous. Go back. So we can copy and paste all of our code from our last button, and then just change that rs command to rs.first. So we'll copy that. Design. Go to first. Delete that code. Put this in. Change rs.last to rs.first, like so. So now whenever we load up our GUI, we can use the last and first buttons, next and previous. Alright, so now that we have all of our scroll buttons, we're going to add 5 new buttons that will allow us to update our database and to delete information and to add new information to our database. So we are going to make 5 new buttons. So we'll put these buttons down here. Alright, so now that we have our 5 new buttons, we're going to name the first one Update Record, which is going to be used to change data that we have in our database. Second button is going to be named Delete Record. Delete record. Third button is going to be named New Record. New Record. This button is going to be named Save New Record. And this button is going to be named Cancel New Record. And just like we did for these, we're going to have to change the variable names for each of these buttons. So this one, we're going to just name it Button Update Record. This one will be named Button Delete Record. This one will be Button New Record. Oh, not edit text. This one will be Button Save Record. And this one will be named Button Cancel Record. Cancel Record. Just like that. So now we're going to write the code for our Update Record button. So we're going to double click on that. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to pull the string values from the text boxes that we made earlier. So string ID is going to be equal to text ID dot get text. Just like that. And we're going to have to go through and do that for each of the text boxes that we made. So string make equals text make dot get text string model equals text model dot get text string made year equals text year dot get text string price equals text price dot get text. All right, so now after we do that, we're gonna have to convert our strings for our integer values and our double value back to integer and double. So the way we're gonna do this is we'll do our ID first. So int new ID is going to be equal to integer dot parse int ID, which is the string that we just created up here. So that converts that string back to an integer. And we're going to do the same thing for our year. So int new year equals integer dot parse int made year. Just like that. And then we're going to do the same thing for our double. So double new price equals double dot parse double price, just like that. All right, so now we're actually going to need to update our values. So we're going to make a try and catch here. So try, catch, SQL, exception, error, just like we've been doing. So system out print line error dot get message. Yep, error dot get message, just like that. All right, so now we're actually going to go through the process of updating all of our columns. So for this, we're going to need to remember what our column names are. So if we go back to services, we can see our column names. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is update our IDs. So we're going to do rs.update, and in this section, we're going to put the name of the column. So ID, and we're going to update that with the new ID integer that we just created. So new ID, just like that. And then we're going to go through and do the same thing for everything else. So update rs.update car make, just like that. Update that with make, and I'll skip through to when I'm done with that. Oh, before I do that, I just realized that this automatically changed this to update array. So this actually needs to be update int, and this needs to be update string. And then I'll fix those error messages. So now I'll skip through the rest of these. So now that we have all those, we're going to put another line here that's going to be rs.update row. And basically what this method right here is going to do is it's going to actually update all of our columns to whatever we just set them to. So after we do that, we're going to display a new message. So j option pane dot show message dialog cars dot this updated. And this is just going to give a little message saying that whatever we just typed in was updated. So all right, so let's test this update button. So if we run our program, let our GUI pop up. Yeah, here it is. I don't know why it's taking so long to load. All right, so now we can update this stuff. So let's say we want to change this Ford Mustang to a Ford Fusion. And then we hit update record. So we're going to get our message says update. So now if we go next, if we go back down to that, it's still Ford Fusion. So we can go to first, so last, first, and it keeps that at Ford Fusion. So even if we close out of this and then rerun the program, it'll still be listed as Forward Fusion because it changes it within the database. So the next three buttons that we're going to be working with are the new record, save new record, and cancel new record buttons. So if we go back to our design, whenever we call new record, then you'll be able to access these two buttons to either save the new record or cancel the new record. So unless you've selected new record, there's no reason to keep these buttons working. So we are going to go to properties on each of these buttons and go to where it says enabled and unenable them. Set that to false on both of these. It says enabled right here. So that will block these out until you click new record with the code we're about to write. So whenever we press the new record button, we're going to want to turn these buttons and these buttons off and just allow these two buttons to work because that's what interacts with the new record button. Alright, so we're going to start editing our new record code. So the first thing we're going to do is turn off all the buttons that we don't need. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to do our button first dot set enabled, and we're going to set that to false, just like so. And then we're going to do the same thing with our button previous set enabled false. And we're going to go through and turn all those buttons off, so I'll skip to the video whenever we do that. But we're also going to turn our save records and cancel new records on to true. Alright, so now that we've turned all these to false and these to true, we'll do the exact opposite to our cancel button. So we go back to our design. If we go to our cancel button right here, I already copied that code, so I'll just paste that right in there. And then we'll change these to false and these to true, just like so. True, 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 and true. So just like that. So now whenever we run our program, run our GUI, I don't know why it's taking so long for the GUI to load up for us. Alright, so now whenever we see get on our GUI and we hit new record, it turns off all these other buttons and just gives us the save new record button and the cancel new record button. Now whenever we hit cancel new record, it turns these two off and restores these other buttons. Now another thing we're going to want to keep whenever we create a new record is the index of whatever record we had pulled up before we input the new record. So whenever we cancel it, it'll return this. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll back up to where we put our variables, and we're just going to put this counter. So, or I shouldn't say counter, this current. So int cur row, and we're going to set that to 0, just like that. And now we're going to go back to our new record code that we just made. So if we go back to new record, we're going to add that line right here. So cur row equals rs dot get row. And what that'll do is just save whatever row we were on before we created a new record. Alright, so now what we're going to want to do is clear the text boxes so that we can input our new stuff. So do text. So we're going to do text id dot set text, just like that. And then we'll do text make dot set text blank, just like that. Text model dot set text, like that. Text year dot set text blank, and text price dot set text blank, just like that. Whoops. Just like that. All right, now to finish up our new record button, we're just going to put everything in a try catch block. Try down here, catch, SQL, exception, error, it's like that, system.out.println, error.get message, just like that, just like that. So now that we've done our new record button, we're going to do our cancel record button. So I went ahead and put this, what we had already, in a try and catch block just to save time. So we're going to need to call that current value that we stored earlier. So what we're going to do is we are going to call rs.absolute cur row. And that's just going to call the cursor back to the row that we stored in cur row. All right, so after that, we're going to need to restore the text boxes to whatever they were previously. So we'll do text id dot set text to to integer dot to string and then id, which was our column name. And we're going to go through and do this for all of our columns. So text make dot set text rs dot get string car make, just like that. And I'll go through and finish up these so that you guys can see what we're doing. Alright, now before I skip into the video, I did forget to do this part. So whenever we create this toString for our integer value, first we do have to do rs.get int, and then we type the name id, just like that. Oh, like that. And now I'll skip to where we're done with that. So now that we have all of these calls here that will reset the text box to the current row, we can run our GUI and try to test this out. Now, of course, we can't save anything yet as we haven't done our save method yet, but we will be getting into that in the next part of the video. So, waiting for that GUI to pop up. Here it is. If we hit new record, then cancel, it went right back to the index that we were at previously. So let's say we were at the third ID, and we do new record, cancel, brings us right back to where we were, just like we hoped it would. So now we're going to be getting into making our save new record button functional. So we're going to double click that, get rid of all of this code right here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this code that we made in our update button, and we're going to copy that and paste that so we can use its information in our new method. So copy that down here, paste that, as we're going to be needing this information. Alright, so after we do that, we're going to make our try and catch block. Try, catch, SQL, exception, error. In that catch, we will have system.out.println error dot get message, just like that. All right. So now in our try block, we're going to actually call the result set method move to insert row, which will bring us to a new part where we'll be able to insert a new row into our table. So rs dot move to insert row, just like that. Just like that. So now that we've created this new record, we're going to add our information to it. So we're going to go here and do rs.update int, and we'll do ID with new ID, and we'll do rs.update string, do our car make with make, which is up here, then rs.update string car model with model, and here we'll do rs.update string, or actually we'll do update int with our car year, and we'll do new year there, and then rs.update double with car price, and new price, just like that. Oh, fix this int, and what did I do wrong here? Here we go. Let's add my semicolon there. All right, so now we're going to do the rs command, rs.insert row, which will insert this new row into our database. Now what we're going to need to do to ensure that our database loads correctly, and we have to do this due to the kind of driver we're using, we're going to close our statement.close, and then we're going to close our result set. You don't always have to do that, but with the driver jar that we're using, we do. All right, so now after we do that, we're going to have to reload everything, just like we did in the form loads. So we're going to go up to our, all the way up to our constructor, to our doConnect method, and we're going to copy and paste all of this. So all this information right here. Copy, bring that back down to where we were. Yep, right here. And we'll paste that into here, like so. And now, and then we have to take these declarations off for some of these. So now we should be able to successfully save everything. All right, now we can test our save new record. So I already tried one on my own, and that was this Jeep Wrangler. All right, so now let's say if we want to make another one. So ID of 6, because we're still just going up. So let's make another Jeep. Let's do a Jeep Liberty 2006. We'll say that it's $10,718.22. Now if we hit save new record, we can cycle through our list, and that Jeep Liberty was just added to our record. And all of our other buttons work just like they should. So now we're going to be making the code for our last button, which is our delete record button. So I already went through and did our try and catch blocks. So in our catch block, we're going to have a J option pane dot show message dialog cars dot this error error dot get message, like that. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to do the result set statement, rs dot delete row. Very straightforward. So then after we do that, just like we did with saving stuff, we're going to have to close our statement and result sets. So statement stmt dot close, and then we're going to have to do the same thing with our result set. So result set dot close, and then we're going to have to reload everything just like we did previously. So over here, paste all that in like we had. And now we should have a working delete button. So let's test this out. And once this was done, we're done with really the whole lesson. So you guys made it through, and I really hope that all this works for you as well. All right, so here's our GUI. So we can test our delete button. So let's say we want to delete that Jeep Liberty that we just made. So delete record. So now if we scroll through it again, our Jeep Liberty's gone. So let's delete that Wrangler as well. So now we're just left with these 4 records. And well, that's it with this lesson. So now you should have a basic idea of what databases are, how to use databases. You should know how to connect to databases using Java. And you should also know how to write a basic database program and how to make an interactive GUI to go along with it. Thank you for watching.